This is the picture of the last American soldier leaving Afghanistan. As the world adapts to the return of the Taliban, three uncomfortable but enduring features of international politics have come into sharp focus. First, the human tragedy unfolding in Afghanistan. Second, India's enormous emotional investment in the Kabul government that collapsed this month. And third, Delhi's strong concerns that the Taliban's connections with Pakistan should not muddy our thinking about the ways of the world. Is the Taliban really open to commercial and political engagement with India?
So this week in your column, you've spoken, of course, about the fundamental thing is that how now that the Taliban is in power, now that the Taliban has taken over Kabul, there are certain realities that the world has to deal with. And it is based on that reality that in Kabul you have the Taliban. There are a lot of things that are unfolding. So one of the things that has happened, which is in the news here now quite a bit, is that the Taliban leadership seems to have made an overture to India. And you mentioned how while being cautious, we shouldn't disregard it completely if it is. What would that look like? What is the kind of move India should be making? Is it just wait and watch? Do we have to be slightly proactive in how we engage with the Taliban now?
Look, at this point, it's an expression of a sentiment. So I think Delhi, my sense would be skeptical because first they have to settle down. It is a signal that look, they're open to India. At least one lot is saying, look, we want to engage India, we want trade, we want normal relationship, and they're saying that to everybody in the world. Implicit on two things, right? One, they would not allow terrorism against any country on their soil, and that the promise they made to everyone. In fact, if you break down India's own interests, that is your core interest, that they would not let this soil be used. And if there's the question, then two questions come up. One, do they mean what they say? Second, do they have the capacity to honor that pledge? Because after all, as we know that it is a revolutionary group that has come to power, it has multiple factions within it. There might be power struggles. So I think the rest of the world will be open-minded to engage them because it's a big issue in terms of if there is genuine cooperation, it will be of great help. But at the same time, people will keep their fingers crossed and wait to see how actually things will happen on the ground from the new government side. So they'll take some time to set up the government, to settle down, to actually start implementing the promises they're making to the world.
So the second thing is that you mentioned it in your piece as well, that there is the reports that the US is collaborating or sort of assisting the Taliban with ISIS upsurge, especially after the recent attack. And it's interesting what Biden has called, right? Or actually, would you describe it? I'm not sure. Either you were quoting Biden or not. We should is it? But to clarify that, everyone should read the piece. It is on the IndianExpress.com, of course, and the paper. But there is a tactical convergence for the moment of US Taliban interests. And this is a similar, but do you think there's a danger, for everyone, for lay readers, what ends up happening, or even with what Pakistan is doing, say, propping up the Taliban right now, is that the history of this kind of tactical convergence is what got us here in the first place, beginning with the Mujahideen, how they were propped up by the US, and Pakistan has faced, for example, in its own soil, very serious amounts of terrorism as a result of its support for groups like the Taliban in Pakistan, and so many other extremist organizations emanating from it. Do you think both the US, this idea we will prop up one kind of good terrorists, bad terrorists, Taliban, ISIS, do you think that there are some lessons that they're ignoring from even the recent past in that sense?
Look, I think there are two different issues, I think here. One is the urgent always drives out the important and long term. That look, you have crisis for the US. Even India seems to have had some contact with them on the question of evacuation of its citizens. The US had large numbers of citizens. So both in the last 2 weeks, as well as in the next few days, they need Taliban's cooperation to get the people out. So I think that priority of the safety of citizens, we can call it tactical, but I think that is a huge weighty issue for any government that has to deal with the situation in Afghanistan. The second is, look, does it play out strategically? Now, there, I think there is room to engage. Now, for example, US has already frozen the money of Afghanistan. It is preventing remittances. Now, if Taliban says, look, we have actually a shared interest against Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and if they can prove that, why should Americans not cooperate with them? So for them, you see, that's why, what is the core interest on which countries engage? Okay, there are questions of human rights, what happens internally. But if Taliban can actually deliver on the terrorism issue, a lot of countries will hold their nose and will be quite open to engaging, because that is the main threat. That doesn't mean the human rights issue will go away, how they treat their women and minorities, those issues are not going to go away. But for now, and even in a longer term sense, so terrorism is the principal issue for many countries, for China, for US, for India, for Russia. Now, Pakistan has larger interest because they would want to use it as the area of depth against India. So do they actually permit it or not? That is, for India, that will be a big concern. So then there is the question of unintended consequences. Look, the whole life is full of them, and you can go back. You can start with the communist coup in 1978. Now, if they're not, embarked on a very radical, sweeping reform, there wouldn't have been the Islamic backlash. And then if the Americans had not supported the jihad against the Soviet, which was a progressive, in a way, communists were at least modernizers, to a jihad that was harking back to the past ideology. Then you had that, and then that morphs into Taliban. And then it goes into 9/11 and the attacks and the huge becomes a school of terror for the whole world. So what seemingly smart move for a progressive party like the communists, or for geopolitics from the American side, look, the important thing is to defeat Russia in Afghanistan. Therefore, I don't care who I support, but if jihadis are the ones who are going to do it, I'll back them. And then there's the same guys who killed 3,000 Americans in the 9/11 attacks. So I think there is the unintended consequences in history. Now, can you always, be so cautious that you won't do anything? So some risk will have to be taken. But I think at this point, the difference between the 90s and now, Taliban too needs to build a nation that they simply can't say, look, we don't care. We do what we did last time, and that we can be completely isolated. So I think, or they can say, look, I'll only cut a deal with the Chinese, and I'll stop terrorism against them, but I'll let it loose against the Americans and the Chinese and the Indians. So my sense is, look, any organization, however crazy the group might be, they have interests, which are different from ideology. So what world would want to see, look, does ideology prevail or does interest prevail? And that tension, like some people would argue, look, if Taliban is moderate, it can no longer be true to its ideology. If it is true to its ideology, it can't help the rest of the world. So I think that tussle we've seen in every revolutionary regime, going back to the Bolsheviks or the Chinese communists or the Iranian Islamic Revolution. There's always this tension between, do you become pragmatic and engage the world? Or do you say, no, I'm going to stick to my pure ideology and in the process incur costs? And either of them produces conflict within.
Yeah.
And I think there again, I think that might open up opportunities, but the world will wait and see how that plays out.
So you've already sort of answered my next question, but I'll ask it. Is that, there seems to be, on the one end, you do have this, the Taliban is currently in control. But as we saw with the ISIS attack so soon, such a major attack, is that, do you think there's also a tendency among all of us, certain commentators, certain progressive liberals, even more so than others, of assuming that this is a new reality too soon? It is not as though it's still a question of establishing control. And what is the kind of, one is, of course, there will be, say, that Uzbek leader who's coming up. There will be forces outside the Taliban. But also within the Taliban, how do you see, just the consolidation of the Taliban enough to be able to build a nation state of something that we could recognize as a nation state and deal with them in that sense? What is the kind of timeline? How does one deal with the situation in the interior? India, Washington, all the players in the region.
No, I think there's no question that they have a huge challenge country is broke, there is no resources. So therefore, the importance of a positive, productive engagement with the world. I mean, that's what they're saying. But does everyone agree with this inside their group? People point to the various factions within them. There is a group that produces opium and sells it. If you say, look, I'm going to control opium production, you're going to put off a major faction in the Taliban. So these tensions, I think we've seen even in a democracy, when you're building a coalition, the importance of accommodating the interests of diverse groups is always a problem. But in a violent extremist organization trying to become a normal polity, the challenges are even more. So I think there's no question, they'll have huge challenges that will create internal fissures. For example, you can say Americans and the Taliban are talking to each other. Now, Taliban, when Americans do an attack on a, ISIS bomber, Taliban has to condemn it. If they don't condemn it, this is exactly what ISIS is saying. Look, these guys are sold out. They're American puppets now. We had the old Ghani and the old puppets in Kabul. Now we have a new set of puppets. So we are the pure. So we are the ones who are going to really fight the jihad against the America and the West. So that problem is always the flank problem, that you have a flank that always says, look, they're the purer ones. So in all these kind of situations, a lot depends on the leadership. That is, if you have a leadership that is capable of managing these contradictions without losing sight of the long-term goal of nation building. So a lot of times the revolutions succeed or fail, depending on your ability, leadership's ability, its wisdom to cope with this multiple pressures. Some people have managed. Some leaders manage it, some leaders can't. So I think it's a contingent question. It's an open-ended question. So there is no guarantee a priori that actually they can deliver on anything they promise. But for India, look, if they say, look, we want to talk to you, India is not going to say we don't want to talk to you, just because we don't think there is good Taliban, bad Taliban. But that's the minimum. Look, if you're an analyst, you can take a position. Here is a pure position I take, like which is most analysts are taking. Look, all this is one lump. There's no need to talk. Everybody's under the remote of Pakistan. But the fact is, look, as a state which has security interests of its people, you would want to see how far are they willing to go. That's a normal interaction between any two societies. So you have to engage them. My sense is if they're serious about engagement, engagement will take place. And I'm sure then the Pakistanis will react. They'll create problems for Taliban. So all those consequences will follow. So my sense is we should keep an open mind. Go by what they say, not by what they, don't go by what they say, go by what they do. But lend an ear, keep your fingers crossed, and see where it takes us, rather than saying, look, these guys are beyond redemption. There's nothing that can be done with them. It's all preset. We are finished. We have no leg to stand upon. Already you've seen last few days has disproved that kind of a doomsday predictions about India's position in Afghanistan. But it's a long haul. It has to be a patient and a purposeful, open-eyed engagement, and to see where it takes us.
Great, sir. Thanks so much. And everyone, we will keep, of course, following Afghanistan and other international stories on the Indian Express as well as in this space. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Akash.